A very good evening to you all, and welcome to today's class. Today, we're going to continue our Introduction to Cybersecurity class, and we will be looking at Module 2. Module 2 is talking about attack concepts and techniques. Attack concepts and techniques. Okay. Let us start by analyzing a cyber attack. We have different types of malware. Malware is just another term used for malicious ware, okay? Because there are two words, malicious and ware. And cyber criminals use different types of malicious softwares or malware to carry out their activities. The use of this hardware is any code that can steal data, bypass access control, or cause harm or compromise to a system. Knowing the different types and how they spread is key to containing and removing them. Okay? Spyware. Spyware monitors online activities and can log every key you press on your keyboard and even capture almost any of your data, including your sensitive personal information, such as your online banking details, and it is designed to track and spy you. That is why it is called a spyware. So spyware does this by modifying the security settings of your device, and it often bundles itself with legitimate softwares or a Trojan horse. Okay. Another type of malware is called the adware, and the adware comes from advertisements. Often adwares installed with some software versions, and it is designed to automatically deliver advertisements to you as a user. Most often, it is usually on a web browser. You know it when you use it. It is hard to ignore when facing constant pop-ups on your screen. It is common for adwares to come with spyware. Backdoor. This malware gains unauthorized access by bypassing the normal authentication procedures to access the system. As a result, hackers can access resources within an application and issue remote system commands. A backdoor works in background and is difficult to detect. Ransomware. The design of this malware is to hold a computer system or the data it contains captive until it makes a payment. Ransomware usually encrypts your information so you can't access it. Some versions of ransomware can take advantage of specific system vulnerabilities to lock it. Ransomware is often spread through phishing emails that encourage you to download a malicious attachment or through a spyware vulnerability. Another is called the scareware. This type of malware uses scare tactics to trick you into taking a specific action. Scareware mainly consists of operating system style windows that warn you that your system is at risk and need to run a specific program to return to normal operation. So if you agree to execute the specific program, your system will become infected. Okay? So you could see that all these malwares, most of them are named based on what they do, right? Rootkit. The rootkit is designed to modify the operating system to create a backdoor which attackers can use to access your computer remotely. So most rootkits use software vulnerabilities to access resources that shouldn't be accessed, especially privilege escalation, and then modify the system files. So rootkits can also modify system forensics and monitoring tools, making them very, very hard to detect. So if a rootkit infected a computer, wipe the computer and reinstall the entire software. Let's look at the very common one called virus. A virus is a computer program that, when executed, replicates and attaches itself to other executable files, such as a document, and by inserting its code. Most viruses require an end-user interaction to initiate the activation and can act on a specific date or time. Viruses such as those that display a funny image can relatively be harmless, or they can be destructive, such as those that can modify or even delete your data. Viruses can also be programmed to mutate to avoid detection. USB drives, optical disk, network shares, or even email spread most of these viruses. Trojan horse. This malware carries out malicious operations by masking its true intent. It appears legitimate, but it's very dangerous. Trojans exploit your user privilege, and image files are where you find them, audio files, or even games. So unlike viruses, Trojans do not self-replicate, but act as a decoy to sneak malicious software past the unsuspecting user. And then we have worms. Worms, these types of malware replicates itself to spread from one computer to another. Unlike a virus, which requires a host to program, worm can run alone. Other than initial infection of the host, they do not even require any user participation and can even spread more quickly over the network than even a virus. Worms share similar patterns. They exploit system vulnerabilities, have a way to propagate themselves, and contain malicious code to cause damage or computer system on the computer system network. Worms are responsible for some of the most devastating attacks we've had on the internet. In 2001, the code red worm infected over 300,000 servers in just 19 hours. So that is how fast the worm can spread. These are the malicious softwares that we have mostly around. Now, there are some symptoms that your system will begin to exhibit when or if your system is infected by any or multiple of these malwares. So regardless of the type of the malware that infects a system, you can look out for some very common symptoms. Number one, an increase in central processing unit, that is your CPU usage, which shows and slows down your system. You'll notice that your system is making, your processor is working very hard. In most cases, you see it pulling at 100%, 90, 100%, and you know that you are not doing anything per se. And in that particular case, there is a problem, okay? So the keyword here is the increase in the CPU usage. The second one is your computer freezing or crashing often. You notice your mouse is not working, or anything you click, it does not open. It just, the computer sees it. And then you have to forcefully push it down. or off it, or yes, forcefully off it, then you reboot it again, or you discover your system crashes. Once you discover this freezing, all right, or crashing, there is something wrong. Sometimes even affects your phone. Number 3, a decrease in your web browsing speed. Okay, maybe your browser is getting very, 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 very slow, very slow. And you are beginning to wonder what happened. Okay, you need to check. There is a suspicion, and the keyword is the decrease in the speed. Okay. The next one is unexplainable problems with your network connections. This one mostly is when you're infected by a worm, right? Your network connections, you just notice very frequent problems, and you wonder where these problems are coming. All right. And then another one is modified or deleted files. It is good that as you use your system, you know the content of your system, whether it's your phone or your tablet or your computer or your laptop, you know the files. And when you begin to see strange files sitting on your systems, or the file names are changing, or you see that there are like file extensions that are being added to it, or you see that there is something different about it, you know that there is a problem. You may be infected by any of the malware we have listed. All right? Modified or deleted files. Then the presence of unknown files, programs, like I said. All right? When you see some files that you don't know, or programs that you did not install, you begin to see them. There's a problem. When you also observe unknown processing running, when you go to your processor and you begin to see processes that you are not aware of, so you know that there is a problem. Okay. The next one is programs turning off or reconfiguring themselves. Maybe you are playing or you're running a particular program and you discover it just goes off, or your system just reboot by itself, or you discover the system is misbehaving, malfunctioning. That's also a symptom or sign. And then finally, sending emails without your knowledge or consent. When others begin to tell you that, I got your mail, or you check and you see that your system is sending so many mails without your consent, then you know that there is a problem. Okay. What are the methods of infiltration? Number 1 is social engineering. When we say method of infiltration, we're basically looking at how does this malwares gain access to our systems. So one we said is social engineering. Social engineering is manipulating people into performing actions or divulging confidential information. Social engineers often rely on people's willingness to be helpful, but also prey on their weaknesses. For example, an attacker will call an unauthorized employee with an urgent problem that requires immediate network access and appeal to the employee's vanity or greed to invoke authority by using name-dropping techniques to gain this access. That is just an example. Or there's another one called the pretexting. This is when an attacker calls an individual, lies to them to gain access to confidential data. For example, pretending to need a person's personal or financial data to confirm their identity. That is wrong. In fact, this pretexting is most often used when you want to hack your WhatsApp. You'll see somebody will call you, or they will send you a message. They will say, there is a meeting going on, and they will call the name of one of the groups that they know you belong. And they say that we're going to send you a code, or we have sent you a code. Have you seen the code? You say no. Say, okay, please watch. We're going to send you the code now. Just send it back to us. That's what they do. They just overwhelm you, confuse you, and then before you know it, it becomes a problem. Another social engineering technique is called a tailgating. And the tailgating is when an attacker quickly follows an unauthorized person into a secure physical facility. All right. The person does not have rights to enter maybe the server room or the switch room or the building. And then you have your card and you swipe your card, the door opens to you, and then the person just follows you and enter before the doors close. That's tailgating. Right? Another social engineering is called quid pro quo, something for something. Quid pro quo. Okay. And this is when an attacker requests personal information from someone in exchange for some gifts. Right? So just give me this access and then this is what I'll do for you. So quid pro quo. Another way is called the denial of service. Denial of service attacks are the type of network attacks that is relatively simple to carry out even by unskilled attacker. The DOS attack results in some interruption of network services to users, devices, and applications. The DOS is just, you see, aimed to deny you access to certain services. All right? The server provides you services. That's what the server does. So the DOS denies you access to these services. That's just what it does. And how does it do it? One, by overwhelming quantity of traffic. So this is when a network or host or application sends enormous amount of data at a rate it cannot handle. This will cause a slow transmission or response or cause the device to crash or that service to crash. So that is it. So probably the server is supposed to be providing certain access. You're supposed to be doing certain work on it. But DOS will provide and storm the data with multiple nonsense and jargons. And the server will just be replying to it, will be processing it, such that it will not have enough time to be able to attend to the legitimate traffic. Another way is maliciously formatted packets. A packet is a collection of data that flows between a source and a receiver, all right, or an application on a network such as the internet. So when sending maliciously formatted packet, the receiver cannot even handle it. For example, suppose that an attacker forwards packet containing error or improperly formatted packet that an application cannot identify. In that case, that will cause the receiving device, to run very, very slow or even crash. Then we have distributed denial of service. The keyword here is distributed. We talked about the denial of service when you overwhelm the server with certain requests that the server is unable to provide services. Now, this distributed is similar to DOS, but it originates from multiple coordinated sources. Okay. The key word here is multiple coordinated sources because the attacker is going to now use so many other systems around the globe. All right. And once it uses those systems, it will use those systems to cause a problem on your own system. All right. That is what it does. So that is DOS. So an attacker builds a network of botnets. Botnets is like a robot networks, like make your systems become zombies. All right. So of infected hosts called zombies controlled by a handler. The zombie computer will constantly scan and infect more hosts, creating more and more zombies. So when ready, the attacker will instruct the handler system to make the botnets of zombie carry out a DDoS attack. So that is it. So first thing it's going to do is going to create zombies. How does it create these zombies? It's going to use like all these malwares, virus, worm, Trojan, all these malwares, and then it will be dropping the payload in the systems. All right, it'll be dropping. All right, so maybe your system is a zombie without you knowing. So the zombie is only activated when it is required or when it is needed. So it will just activate and then that will be it. All right. A botnet or a bot computer is typically infected by visiting an unsafe website. Very important. When you visit unsafe website or opening an infected email attachment of media file. So a botnet is a group of bots connected through the internet that a malicious individual or group can control. It can have tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of bots, which a command and control server typically controls. Activating these bots distributes malware, launches DDoS attacks, distributes spam emails, or execute brute force password attack. Criminals will often rent out botnets to their parties of nefarious purposes. So many organizations like Cisco force network activities through the botnet traffic filters to identify many botnet locations. Infected bots try to communicate with a command and control host on the internet. The Cisco Firewall botnet filter is a feature that detects traffic coming from devices infected with the malicious botnet code. The cloud-based Cisco Security Intelligence Operation SIO service pushes down updated files to the firewall that matches traffic from new known botnets. All right. Alerts go out to Cisco internal security team to notify them about infected devices, generating malicious traffic so that they can prevent, navigate, and remedy all this. On-path attackers intercept or modify communications between two devices, such as a web browser and a web server, to collect information from or impersonate one of these devices. This type of attack refers to a man in the middle or man in the middle in the mobile attack. Man in the middle. The man in the middle attack happens when a cyber criminal takes control of a device without the user's knowledge. With this level of access, an attacker can intercept and capture user information before it sends it to its intended destination. Using these types of attack often steals financial information. And there are many types of malware that poses man-in-the-middle attack capabilities. Okay. Man in the mobile. A variation of man in the middle is man in the mobile, and it is a type of attack that used to take control of the user's mobile device. When infected, the mobile device instruction exfiltrates user-sensitive information and sends it to the attacker. This is one example of the malware package with man-in-the-mobile capabilities. It allows attackers to capture two-step verification SMS and sends it to the users. Okay? That is it. How about SEO poisoning? When you say SEO, you're talking about site, optimization, site engine optimization. That is SEO. And it is basically for websites. What happens? Anytime you go to the search engine, maybe you go to Google, for instance, and you type an information, Google brings out a result for you. And out of the results that it brings out for you, it prioritizes them from top to bottom based on the ones that have the closest results to your search. So that search engine can be optimized by using certain scripting or certain plugins, so that if I have a website and I want to redirect people to my website, anytime people search for anything closely related to my website, I want the search engine to place my own website at the top, because statistics have shown that people always check the first 3 to 5 results. So what they do is they poison the search engine optimization engine. So you've probably heard of search engine optimization, or SEO, which is about improving an organization's website to gain greater visibility in search engine results. So search engines such as Google works by presenting a list of web pages to users based on their search queries. These web pages rank according to the relevancy of their content. So while many legitimate companies specialize in optimizing websites to better position them, attackers take advantage of popular search terms and use SEO to push malicious sites higher up the search results. This technique is called SEO poisoning. The most common goal of SEO poisoning is to increase traffic to a malicious site that may host malware or attempt social engineering. Another method of infiltration is password attack. Entering a username and a password is one of the most popular forms of authenticating a website. Therefore, uncovering your password is an easy way for cyber criminals to gain access to your most vulnerable information. Password spraying. This technique attempts to gain access to a system by spraying a few commonly used passwords across many accounts. For example, cyber criminals use password like this, password 123, with many usernames before trying again with a second commonly used password, such as Witty. These techniques allow the perpetrator to remain undetected and avoid frequent account lockouts. Then we have the dictionary attacks. A hacker systematically tries every word in a dictionary or a list of commonly used words as a password to break into a password-protected account. So most at times, they use it in form of an algorithm, and they use a password cracker or a device that runs this algorithm, okay? Then we have this brute force attack. The simplest and most commonly used way of gaining access to a password-protected site is brute force. Brute force attacks see an attacker using all possible combination of letters, numbers, and symbols in the password space until they get it right. So probably I want to connect to your Wi-Fi at home or in the office, and I don't have the password. then I just do brute force. I'll be typing, I'll be guessing different passwords. That's brute force. Or maybe the one on your phone. I want to open your phone and it's password protected. So I'm going to be trying multiple password. I'll try your date of birth. I'll try your ATM pin. I'll try your this. I'll try your that. I'll try important dates to you. I'm trying different passwords. That is brute force. The rainbow attack, passwords in a computer system do not store as plain text, but as hashed values. A rainbow table functions as an extensive dictionary of pre-computed hash and passwords. Unlike the brute force attack that has a calculate each hash, a rainbow attack compares the hash of a password with those stored in a rainbow table. So when an attacker finds a match, they identify the password used in creating it. Okay. Traffic interception. By intercepting communications, other humans and machines can easily read plain text or unencrypted passwords. If you store a password in clear, readable text, anyone who has access to your account or device, whether authorized or unauthorized, can actually read it. Attackers also achieve infiltration through advanced persistent threats. A multi-phase, long-time, stealthy, and advanced operation against a specific target. For these reasons, an individual attacker often lacks the skill set, resources, or persistence to perform the APT as indicated. So due to the complexity and skill level required to carry out such an attack, an APT is usually well-funded and targets organizations or nations for business or political reasons. Its primary purpose is to deploy customers' malware, on one or more of the target systems and remains there undetected. Now, let's look at security vulnerability and exploits. Security vulnerability and exploits. Hardware vulnerability, meltdown, and spectra. Hardware vulnerabilities are most often the result of hardware design flaws. This is what people call manufacturing defects. All right, maybe there's a problem with the device, the hardware. The problem is from the manufacturer. So, for example, the type of memory called RAM consists of lots of capacitors. All right. So, however, due to proximity changes applied to one of these capacitors could influence a neighbor's capacitor. So that's a design flaw. Meltdown and spectra. Google's security researchers discovered meltdown and spectra, two hardware vulnerabilities that affect almost all CPUs released since 1995, whether it is with desktop or laptop or servers or smartphones and things like that. So you see, that is a manufacturing hardware defect. So attackers exploit these vulnerabilities and read all the memory from the given system and data handled by other applications. All right. So the meltdown and spectral vulnerabilities exploitation refer to side channel attack. So they can compromise large amount of memory data because of the numerous times the attack ran on a system with minimal possibility of crash or errors. How about software vulnerabilities? Errors in the operating system or application code, that's where we call software vulnerabilities. The sinful knock vulnerabilities allow attackers to gain control of enterprise-grade routers, such as legacy Cisco routers, from which they could monitor all network communications and infect other network devices. When an altered ISO version installed, ISO is like the operating system on network devices. So this vulnerability introduces into the system. To avoid this, you should always verify the integrity of the operating system you download. Okay? Because you can go and download something not from a legitimate site, and it will cause problem to you. Categorizing software vulnerabilities. Most software security vulnerabilities fall into several main categories. We have the buffer overflow. Buffers are memory areas allocated to an application. When writing data beyond the limits of the buffer, a vulnerability occurs. By changing data beyond the boundaries of a buffer, the application can access memory allocated to other processes. This can lead to a system crash, data compromise, or provide escalation of privilege. Non-validated input. Programs often require input, but this incoming data could have malicious content that unintentionally forces the program to behave. For example, consider a program that receives an image for processing. A malicious user could craft an image file with valid image dimensions. The maliciously crafted dimensions could force the program to allocate buffers of incorrect and unexpected sizes. And then race conditions. These vulnerabilities describes a situation where the output of an event depends on ordered or timed outputs. A race condition becomes a source of exposure when the required ordered or timed events did not occur in the correct order or at the proper time. We're still categorizing software vulnerabilities. We have looked at hardware vulnerabilities. So we're looking at that of softwares. Another one is the weakness in the security practice. Authentication, authorization, and encryption protect systems and sensitive data. Developers should use security techniques and libraries that have already been created, tested, and verified, and should not attempt to create their security algorithm. This will only likely introduce new vulnerabilities. All right? Then we have access control problems. Access control is the process of controlling who does what and ranges from managing physical access to equipment to detecting who has access to resource such as file and what they can do with it, such as read or change the file. The improper use of access control creates many security vulnerabilities. Nearly all access controls and security practices can be overcome if an attacker has physical access to target equipment. For example, no matter the permission settings on a file, a hacker can bypass the operating system and read the data directly on the disk. All right? I see that someone has raised his hand. We're almost done. Then I will open up for questions. Software updates. The goal of software updates is to stay current and avoid exploiting vulnerabilities. Microsoft, Apple, and other operating system producers release patches and updates daily. These companies or organizations responsible for them update applications such as browsers, mobile apps, and web servers. Even though organizations put a lot of effort into finding and patching software vulnerabilities, they discover how new vulnerabilities regularly. That's why some organizations use third-party security researchers who specialized in finding vulnerabilities in software or invest in their penetration testing. All right. So Google's Project Zero is an example, excellent example of this particular practice. Then the cybersecurity landscape. This is the last part of this class. Cryptocurrency is digital money used to buy goods and services, using strong encryption techniques to secure online transactions. Banks, governments, and even companies like Microsoft and AT&T are very aware of its importance and are jumping on the cryptocurrency bandwagon. Cryptocurrency owners keep their money in encrypted virtual wallets. When a transaction occurs between the owners of two digital wallets, the recording of these details in a decentralized electronic ledger or blockchain system that takes place. This means it is carried out anonymously and it is self-managed with no interference from third parties such as central banks or government entities. Special computers collect data about the latest cryptocurrency transactions every 10 minutes, turning them into mathematical puzzles to maintain confidentiality. Verification of this transaction goes through a technical and highly complex process known as mining. This step typically involves an army of miners working on high-end PCs to solve mathematical puzzles and authenticate transactions. Once verified, the ledger is updated, electronically copied, and disseminated worldwide to anyone within the blockchain network, effectively completing a transaction. If that is cryptocurrency, what about cryptojacking? Cryptojacking is an emerging threat that hides on a user's computer, mobile phone, tablet, laptop, or server using that machine's resource to mine cryptocurrencies without the user's consent or knowledge. So many victims of cryptojacking didn't even know they've been hacked until it is too late. All right. So that is that about today's lecture. So I'm going to open the forum for questions and answers and then grant opportunity for you to sign your attendance. Okay. So just a minute.